This is what it costs, and this is the only place to get it. And if I sold you well enough, then the investment is there. The minute you start to negotiate price, why shouldn't I assume you can negotiate more, right? So if I give you a drop, now I'm not saying you shouldn't make drops.
Sometimes I mean negotiate value added, not price.
Either direction, they're asking for something for free that they're not going to pay for, right? Is that what they're ultimately asking for? They want something. Now, the company may find that acceptable and do that. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. Myself, personally, I have found that when you get into a negotiating situation with a prospect, they immediately do not trust what your price is. Oh, well, if you could have given me that much off, then you probably could give me more off. Of course they're going to come back. It's a control issue. However, if you consider when you're pitching the person and you're building the value on that, there's only one way I would ever make a drop, and it goes exactly like this. This is the only way to do a drop. It's called an if I could, would you. All right? So the minute basically, me and you, Mr. Investor, are here right now. Basically what you've told me is your answer is yes. Is that correct? In the circumstances that you want, your answer is correct. Is yes correct? And I'm going to have the paperwork signed right now. If I can get you what you want, you are ready to do the deal right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Fair enough. Let me get somebody on the phone. It's the only way I would ever negotiate anything. And I would hold them to it, and I would make them sign it right there and then. And you know what? I wouldn't give them everything he wanted. I'd give them half of what he wanted. If I was going to negotiate at all. You can never give them everything they want because they will think your price you picked out of the air and you can make it anything you want to anybody you want. So an if I could, would you close works very well. Because here's what will happen a lot of the times. Those aren't necessarily, if they're a serious buyer like yours was, you'll then take them to the close. But a lot of them, if you ask an if I could, would you statement, will say, well, you know, I'm still going to need to think about it. You can't imagine what would happen if I called the company and asked for a concession, and then my boss is immediately going to say, so if I give him this concession, you guys are signing the deal right now, and I tell him that you said no to that, I'll get fired. I can't call the company and ask them to do something as a concession if you're not ready to buy. Now, if you're ready to move forward, then I'm more than willing if that's what it's going to take to make the deal. That is an urgency close. You lock them down immediately with an urgency close, and they'll read themselves at that point. You'll either know they're going or you know they're not going. So I would use the if I could, would you on that. What else? Any other objections, you guys? Yes?
It's not really an objection. I guess it could be an objection, but in many cases, as you know, because I think you really understand our business, doctors are in groups. They're partners. Mm-hmm. And so you're not dealing with one person. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with several different people, maybe as many as 7, 8. How do you address that? I mean, you know, when we're talking in a familiar person-to-person talk. Mm-hmm. But you're actually trying to convince 8 people, or the majority, say it's a majority, obviously, if they take a vote. Mm-hmm. Have you dealt with situations where...
Sure, okay. Sure. Will you know ahead of time that they'll be voting, that it's a majority, for example, in that case?
Typically, you'll try to find out, you know, who the key decision maker is. Okay. But you try to find that out.
Right, and that's a very important point, obviously, who the dominant decision makers are, who holds what. Which way, though, would it come to you as an objection? What exact, like, do you have a particular case that you have in mind?
The spine surgeon in the group is sold, 100% sold.
Okay, right.
The neurologist, the brain guy, he's a little bit sold, but hardly, you know.
Not there yet, right. But you have somebody who's, okay, what I would call that is a champion sale. I actually use the term as a champion sale. So on occasion, and we're going to use our champion in the marketing that we're doing is the receptionist, believe it or not. In a lot of cases now, working us up the pole. So we're going to get one person within the organization that shows an interest, and we're going to use them to attract everybody else. That's exactly what I would do. I would say, doctor, I tell you what, if you have another group of 6 that are going to be in the decision, I can do it for you. I'd like to call them and say, you've seen it, you like it, but you want them to be involved in the decision as well, and we're going to have a meeting Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. You have to make it obviously in a time that's going to be out, not taking them away from any of their business. I would think that the ones that show up are your partners with the doctor. Use him as your champion. Once you've sold one of them, he's the go-to guy. So I give an example of, let's say you have to do a 2-call close where we stop and we ask the question, other than the investment, are you ready to move forward? And you know they're not. And they're going to say, well, no, I'm going to need this, this, and this. Okay, great. So I'm going to get all of that put together so that you're then able to make the decision. That's the same thing, selling them and stopping. So you sold the first guy and you stopped them. Now you come back for the second appointment. You sort of have to do what I would call a demo close. You need to get everybody up to speed to the point where the doctor was able to make the decision. Sometimes that's going back and doing the entire presentation for the group again. I would say that's the absolute safest way to do it, because chances are he can't give over the information the same way you can, the energy of it, everything about it, you're going to do better than he is. But you have to take your time with that. You have to make it so that it's convenient to them, not convenient to you, and that's a very good way. Using the one that's already decided, look, they're all in a group with them, so they obviously think he's credible. So if he's seen it and he likes it, now it's just a matter of showing it to his partners who are going to like it just as much. I would only pitch up to the part of the price, and I wouldn't go any further without all the decision makers. By the way, in the questionnaire, and we need to add that, that's definitely an extremely important question. In the questionnaire is asking, are there others that are going to be involved in the decision? For sure we want that. Okay. Anything else? What other objections are we getting? Well, I think we're going to sell a lot of these this year, Doctor. Looking forward to it. Anything else? Come on, what kind of things do you run into? Maybe not at the end of the sale, maybe
I don't
somewhere in the
have
middle.
room, my site, how about siding? I have my ceilings not tall enough. Can you fit the scanner here? Can I put it on the second floor next to an elevator? Those types of things.
Right. Obviously, there's with sensitive equipment, Mr. Investor, there's certain specifications we're going to have to hold up to for this type of special advanced technology. Let me take a look at your site. I'll get the engineers to tell me what would need to be done if you wanted to do it exactly here, or I'll have them give us a couple other options that maybe you might be able to review. I get friendly with a realtor, to tell you the truth, in your territories. They know where the kind of buildings are that the specifications you need are. At some level, they must know. And if you're going to go after builders, which I have to tell you, I'm definitely going to be calling builders tomorrow, offering up that idea that way, that's a fabulous pitch in. Because these guys are going to build the building. And the best thing, you could go down, because of your idea of income that can help them pay the mortgage, you could go down to permits and find out who's going to be building the buildings. Because they have to put there's changes in their financing as they're going along, adjustments in their financing. If you could throw this in and they can get a 30-year note on it, I have to tell you, we have a guy who's a builder in Columbus who now has gotten some federal 40-year money for building. Can you imagine what happened to the payment on that? I mean, these are not arguments. One thing back on the drop, if I could add as well, on you were asking if the person asks you for a drop. I typically do not give a monthly payment when I'm giving the investment over. And I'll tell you, it's psychological again. If I try to sell you and sell you and sell you at $2 million or 2.1 or 2, 3, 4, whatever it is with the build out and the working capital,